Oh, good food, actually.
I'm going to start with a few questions just to give you some time for your own, and when you're ready, raise your hand and the microphone will come your way. Congratulations on the film. It's extremely impressive and thought-provoking. I thought we would start with you, Seymour. So you started as a journalist in City News in Chicago. And could you tell us, you said you fell in love with journalism there. Could you tell us why you fell in love with journalism there?
I fell in love with it gradually. I fell into it through serendipity, but then I realized how important it could be, and it's just good journalism is, any cliche you want, staff of life, or it's certainly the way to keep governments in order. And so when you see the decay here and the decay in my country, you say to yourself, okay, one of the flaws is the goddamn press isn't doing the job it should be doing. And that seems to be, it's one of the implicit lessons of the film, is that you really can make a difference. One can, sometimes. And I'm appalled that your foreign policy leaders, who are comical, can parade around as you do, just as our president and his people can totally destroy the intent and purpose of the Constitution, which had three parties of government: Congress, the courts, and the executive, and he's destroyed all of that. I mean, we may survive it, we may not. And so I think in the old days, I adored the London Times Insight team, the group of reporters that were assigned to do nothing but work on one particular complicated story for as long as it took, and then publish it in the paper. I don't see that anymore. And I don't see people of the kind of skill that existed then going into this business now. There's other things they choose, so it's I'm just pretty gloomy. Period.
And Laure and Mark, so it's been a very long gestation project, and obviously you've been going through Seymour, staggering body of work, and I imagine the project must have evolved a lot through the years because it took a long time. And how does it reflect also with today's media landscape? What is your current reflection?
I mean, we always wanted it to be relevant to today, right? This is telling a history, what's a half a century, really, of the U.S. told through the lens of size reporting. And so, I mean, one of the things we're interested in is the repetitions, the repetitions of kind of acts of violence or atrocities that are then denied or covered up, and then this repetition and no accountability. So you have that with Westmoreland and Vietnam, you have it with Donald Rumsfeld and George W. Bush in the Iraq era, and then here we are today, So this idea that you can just get away with anything has been kind of something that Psy has been constantly pushing back against. And so this is what we wanted to tell, that we need investigative journalists, and we need the institutions to fund investigative journalists, and they can't be afraid of the government. And right now we have this institutional sort of preemptive cowering to bullying that we're seeing particularly in the US, but also in here and in Europe, that needs to end. We can't, I mean, the world we're creating is a world we're creating for the future, and we need journalism, and we need adversarial journalism in it. So it hasn't changed that much in terms of that, but in terms of grappling the size body of work, yeah, it was pretty monumental. We had a big team. I mean, you see the credits. We have
many interviews.
Yeah, 40 interviews. We have a full-time archival producer, and our producer on the film, Olivia Streisand, 2 other editors, and myself, just to wrap our heads around this body of work that Sides created was monumental. So then we could create the movie.
To add to that, the process was long. And actually, when we started, I didn't think the film and Psy's work at that point, and the way in which we were going to expose it, was exactly meshing with the times, but I think as we have made this film over time, his work becomes more and more and more relevant. And one thing struck me, I was screening it this weekend, and I noticed something that really troubled me, and that is in the Vietnam section, the animating action that drove My Lai was body count. And this horrible notion that there could be casual civilian victims and they would be counted as significant dead on the in the Viet Cong. And I started thinking about the fact that right now in the United States, there's rounding up masses and masses of people, immigrants, many of them not criminals, many of them with citizenship, and it's the same thing. It's body count all over again. It's just numbers of people, so we have a president can crow about the masses of people who are being deported, and it's just numbers, body count. And it's that kind of cynicism, I think, that Sy exposed, and I think is still present today.
What do you think it takes today to be an investigative journalist, like in the evolving media landscape?
You answer that.
I mean, I think it comes down to, we need institutions that will provide the resources. I mean, this is work that takes enormous, that's just one of the reasons why we wanted to break down Sy's reporting in a kind of beat by beat way, both to kind of give a little bit of a blueprint for other journalists. So like, there's a tip, there's a general, you get the name, you go, and then it takes time, but then you're not, Sy could have stopped after finding Cali, but he didn't stop. It was trying to understand a bigger question of what was the chain of command and what else happened, not stopping at the sort of, too early. So I think you need resources. I think you need to be dogged. I think you need to know that people are going to be angry at you, that they're going to, that you're, everybody hates the messenger, as said in the film. You're not welcomed. From my experience when I did the NSA reporting with Snowden, it was not like we were met with open arms by everyone. A lot of people felt we should be in jail, we were traitors, etc. And then, then there were some people who were grateful for it. So you have to anticipate the pushback, and you have to be ready to fight against it. And you oftentimes need an institution willing to do that with you. And I think that's what I'm most worried about now, because I do think that there are brave journalists who are willing to put themselves on the line. I'm worried about the fact that the institutions are not going to back them. They're going to cow, they're going to preemptively capitulate.
And I think you also have to realize that sources now in this particular climate are intimidated in a way they were not in the past. There's just an aggressive threat to people who talk. And Sy's work depends on sources and people who talk. And I think the level of machinations that the Trump administration is capable of right now, threatening. Look at, I don't know if any of you follow up with what's going on with the Defense Department right now. They're asking reporters to sign all kinds of waivers that they won't ask questions about this, that, the other thing, and it's just it's a climate of intimidation.
Yeah, and that with the sort of capabilities of surveillance make for a really dangerous landscape.
Do we have any questions in the audience? There is one right in the middle, just here. The microphone is coming to you.
Hi there. I have a bit of a two-parter question. Laure, you mentioned about the repetition there seems to be of these incidents just keep happening, and I also feel like the more I look back and the more I find out about the past things, the more I'm seeing it reflected in Gaza and what's happening. So my first question would be, what do you think is different about this modern day and what's happening now, and how is it different to what happened with Iraq and Vietnam? And then my other question would be, are there any independent investigative journalists who are working today that you would recommend, particularly following the work of?
Yeah, there's a scene in the film where the source says, that Gaza is the past and the future combined collapsed. I feel like this is what's happening that we've witnessed in Gaza. This sets a precedent for going forward, which is a very dangerous precedent, you know? I mean, I think there were certain laws that were created in the aftermath of World War II that there would be accountability, that you can't get away with anything. And, you know, I think this is a really dangerous, you know, precedent that we're seeing playing out. In terms of journalists, I mean, there's Yuval Abraham, who was one of the directors of No Other Land, who's been doing some of the most courageous reporting about what's happening in terms of surveillance against Palestinians, and I think it's incredibly courageous work, and doing it in a country where it's very risky to do the type of investigative journalist. So I mean, Al Jazeera has been doing good work. I think The Guardian does good work. I think every major news organization has great reporters within it, you know, and so Azmat Khan is a friend of mine, and she reports on international affairs, so there are people doing great work.
There is a question just next to the person with the microphone.
Thank you. It's clear that there are times in the process of filming where Sy has reservations about what's going on. I'm curious whether you continue to have those reservations after that process, and also for the filmmakers, whether there were times where you felt that you shouldn't be doing it either for whatever reason.
Shouldn't be doing what exactly?
Reservations about the film.
Yeah, reservations about the filmmaking for similar or other reasons as Sy has.
You asking me that question?
Yeah.
I don't understand a word you said. Just say, what reservations about what? Be more specific at
You
least.
had reservations about the ethical implications of revealing your sources or talking about.
Well, just to
You
correct, we
didn't
never
really-
would
we
ever
don't
reveal. I
reveal
mean,
sources in the
yeah,
film.
but he had he did something that he shared notebooks. So, yeah.
We were scrupulous in eliminating references even in old handwritten documents to people and so forth. So I don't think that
No.
we're comfortable with that.
You could be as scrupulous as you want, but I would have killed you if you'd done anything like that. So the thing is, no, the most important thing is to protect people that talk to you, but sometimes it's impossible. Sometimes people that talk to you go on and talk. The classic case would be Dan Ellsberg, who was an insider who understood that they'd done a study of the war. The Pentagon had done a study of the war called the Pentagon Papers. It's many years ago. Most people don't know about it. But somebody who'd been inside and changed his mind, he put literally his life at risk. He was tried, if it found guilty of the worst crime they could think of, espionage, etc. Being a traitor, he would have gone to jail for a long time. But he made public a document. What I have found is there are, in every place, in every institution, there are people who are of integrity in the military, in the State Department in America, and in the intelligence services in America. They take an oath of loyalty to the Constitution, and not to the president, not to their boss. And those are the people that I tend to find, or they tend to find me. And so the notion of not protecting a source, I know there's scandals galore about it, but by and large, not in my book. And so it's essential. But it's sort of a given. That's part of the job. Most reporters will protect the source. There's nothing spectacular about it. It's the question of getting the sources. And when you live in a system like we do in Washington of tyranny, when people are being prosecuted for thinking the wrong thoughts about the president, it makes it harder to be a reporter. But so that's the way it goes.
We had Camille Lesavio, who's the woman who gave Sy the pictures of Abu Ghraib, and she was with us at the showing in New York, and was asked by some people in the audience, would she do it again? And she confirmed it, absolutely, she would do it again. She thought it was the right thing to do, so that's the kind of person who will always come forward, I think.
It'd be nice if she was a 5-star general or something like that.
We have to wrap up, but thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.